This man right here, David Allen Funston, he is one of the worst criminals that you could imagine. In the late 90s, over in California, David would drive around in his car in suburban neighborhoods looking for children aged 3 to 7. He would then use things like candy, toys, as well as other little gifts to lure the kids to get into his car. And once inside, he would kidnap them, molest them, beat them, and rape them. Now, thankfully, he didn't kill any of the kids, but that's pretty much the only silver lining. I'm not going to get into the graphic details of what he actually did to those kids, but if for some reason you ever want to know, just Google his name and you can read the court documents that go into the horrifying specifics. I mean, the guy really is an absolute monster, and as such, he was convicted and thrown into prison in order to serve out 3 consecutive life sentences. Quote, David Allen Funston, age 64, was convicted in 1999 of 16 counts of kidnapping and child molestation after a horrific crime spree in Sacramento County, during which he kidnapped, raped, and beat 8 children aged 3 to 7. The judge described him as the monster parents fear the most and sentenced him to 3 consecutive life terms plus 20 years. Thus far, David has been sitting in prison for the past 27 years. However, would you believe it? The California Parole Board has decided that 27 years was enough, and as such, they granted David early release under California's elderly parole program, which allows inmates in the state who are above the age of 50, who've served out at least 20 years or more of their sentence, to be let out early. The thinking, for their part, is that he is no longer a danger to society, which is something that almost nobody agrees with. The victims have come out in shock. The local sheriffs couldn't believe what they were hearing. The governor of California, he tried to get the board to reconsider, but they just reaffirmed their earlier decision, and his hands were legally tied because under California law, he couldn't do anything. And the public backlash to this has been so severe that the Department of Corrections was keeping David's release date and location a secret due to safety concerns. And part of the reason that the decision was so baffling is that, besides the obvious, during the actual parole hearings, David admitted that for him, pedophilia is a lifelong condition and that he continues to have fantasies even while in prison. I'm going to read you a summary of the transcript from the parole hearing, and I'll warn you that some of it is a little bit graphic, so if you want to skip about a minute later into this video, you can do so right now. Quote, transcripts from a September 2025 parole hearing show that, as recently as 2021, Funston was masturbating to children in prison. Funston said he had a lapse from 2020 to 2021 in which he had fantasies about children, including an 8-year-old girl who lived across the street from him and played with his daughter. He said after that, he saw a mental health counselor and developed an urge control plan that he has been practicing every day since. His urge control plan includes telling himself to stop and remember the consequences, along with focusing on victim impacts. He said he is still attracted to female children. He described pedophilia as a lifelong condition, saying, there's always a possibility that I'll relapse. I know it's not inevitable, so I know that it's important for me to continue to build on my recovery. I want to do everything I can to ensure that I never harm another child. Now, regardless of what you might have thought hearing that summary from the parole hearing, the California Parole Board decided that David was suitable for early release and that he did not pose an unreasonable risk to public safety. During the hearing, one of the parole board members, he praised David's urge control plan, and the presiding commissioner of the parole board, Ms. Patricia Cassidy, she said this in part during the hearing, quote, your present mental state is not the same as the mental state you had at the time of the crime. You didn't have the coping skills that you have now, and so you have gained sufficient coping skills and tools to address defects in order to avoid repeating past mistakes. All right, just to pause here for a super quick moment, I'd like to introduce our sponsor and my own personal gold dealer, American Hartford Gold. Now, as soon as the latest round of tariffs hit, almost immediately, the stock market hit some serious waves, we could say. It became super turbulent, very volatile, and of course, these conditions don't just affect Wall Street. They affect all of us with our investments and our retirement accounts. That's why I want to introduce a company that I trust and I use myself to help secure my own savings, American Hartford Gold. They specialize in helping Americans move their assets into something tangible, something you can actually hold, physical gold and physical silver. 2 precious metals that help me sleep better at night, knowing that I have a hedge against all those brilliant decisions being made over in Washington. Now, they have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, they have thousands of 5-star reviews, and they make the whole buying process super simple. Your metals can be shipped directly to your doorstep,
or you can transfer your current retirement account to a tax-advantaged gold IRA. And the best part is that right now, American Hartford Gold is offering an exclusive buy one, get one deal for my viewers. When you call them and mention my name, Roman, for every 1 ounce of gold that you purchase, you can get 1 ounce of free silver. And so take advantage of this special offer. Either call 866-242-2352 or simply text Roman to 65532. That's again, 866-242-2352 or text Roman to 65532. I'll also throw their information. It'll be down in the description box below.
Now, this was in September of 2025. 4 months later, in January of this year, Governor Gavin Newsom asked the board to reconsider. They did, and they decided that it was the correct decision, meaning David was granted parole and he was set to be released on Thursday, March the 5th. However, just hours before he was set to be released, local prosecutors filed a new charge against him. Quote, just 24 hours before Funston was set to be released on Thursday, Placer County prosecutors filed a new charge, keeping him in custody. David Allen Funston made a brief appearance Monday in a Roseville courtroom. The arraignment and bail review were continued, and he will remain in jail without bail for now, a decision that comes as a relief to many in the community who feared what could happen if he were released. Funston is charged in Placer County with 1 count of lewd and lascivious acts with a child. According to court records, the alleged crime happened in 1996 and involved a victim prosecutors say was younger than 10. And so basically, at the 11th hour, prosecutors were able to charge him with 1 count of lewd and lascivious acts with a child for a crime that happened all the way back in 96 with a young girl. Which is really wild if you think about it. There were so many victims that 27 years later, a quarter of a century later, David can still be charged with new crimes.
And then also, secondly, a big shout out to our new coffee sponsor. Hunter's Blend Coffee is a great brand. It's run by American patriots. They cut out the middleman and ship the coffee directly to your doorstep, saving you a lot of money in the process. And the coffee is great. It's super fresh. I myself drink it almost every morning. It's roasted and packaged right here in the US by people who actually share your values. And so check them out. The link will be down there in the description box below.
Speaking to local media, here was a statement from Morgan Geyer, the Placer County District Attorney, on the parole decision prior to filing these new charges. Quote, I would have voted very differently from the parole board. I would have denied parole and kept him in. That's where he belongs. I disagree incredibly with some of the findings that were made, given some of the facts that were disclosed throughout the course of that hearing. I'm always concerned that someone with these charges and this propensity and proclivity for committing these types of crimes would victimize someone else again. The Placer County DA then went on to discuss the new charges that he filed. Quote, obviously, we would have to have victim participation in a case like this. She has agreed and is willing. The statute of limitations allows us to prosecute. There will be some legal hurdles, and there will be some litigation, I can assure you, but at the end of the day, is prosecuting this case the right thing to do to hold him accountable? The answer to that question is yes. We always encourage victims to report whenever it is safe. At the moment, Mr. David Allen Funston is being held in jail without bail. However, even if he's found guilty of this new crime, the new charge carries only a maximum of 8 years in prison, meaning David is either going to be released very soon, or if he's found guilty, he'll be released maximum 8 years from now. If you'd like to read the details about either the 1999 case, the parole decision, or this new charge that was recently filed against them, I'll throw all those research notes down into the description box below, which is that description box right below those like and subscribe buttons, both of which I hope you smash so that this important information can reach ever more people. And lastly, I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you think that this whole thing is fair? Do you think that David will reoffend? And even if he does not reoffend, do you think that a man like this deserves a second chance in society after the crime that he did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read them, and I will be reading them tonight as well as into the week after the video publishes. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free.